You're standing in a building that sits beside one of the busiest airports on Earth, and almost no one who flies through that airport will ever know it exists. There's no security line you'd recognize. There's a bathtub. There's a wall of whiskeys older than you are, and a man whose entire job tonight is to notice the moment your glass drops below half and fill it again before you've asked. You're in no hurry. You're happy in the uncomplicated way a person can only be when nothing in the building wants anything from you that you can't easily afford to give. When it's time, you don't walk to a gate. A car comes to the door, a Porsche, usually, and drives you across the tarmac, past the parked planes, right to the steps of yours, so that your shoes never once touch the floor of the actual airport. A few hundred yards away, on the other side of one wall, 11,000 people are taking off their belts and their shoes and holding their arms over their heads in a line that isn't moving. And most of them believe that if they fly enough and stay loyal enough, one day they'll be waved through to a morning like this one. They won't. You were. Somewhere in that crowd is a man named Greg, stuck in the 8th boarding group, who has spent 9 years and an obscene amount of his own money chasing the exact room you're standing in, and who is about to be told at the gate that his upgrade didn't clear. In about a year, he is going to call you, a little embarrassed, and ask if there's any way you can get him onto your reservation, to understand why one airline treats the two of you so completely differently, and why you, of the two of you, are the one smiling. You have to go back to the seat that cost you $50. Let's rewind. You bought the cheapest seat on the plane, and the airline has read that decision down to the cent. $50 buys you a number, a row near the back, and a relationship built entirely out of subtraction. It's time a seater, sir. It's time a seer, dat seer, in tower, sir. The fare is that low because nearly everything has been stripped out of it and laid back down beside it with its own price tag. You're in the middle seat, 34B, and the man on the aisle has annexed the armrest and a good third of your space along with it, his shoulder over the line. So you spend the next 4 hours folded toward the window with your elbows pulled into your ribs, making yourself smaller, apologizing with your whole body for being there. The seat in front of you reclines the instant the wheels leave the ground, and the headrest stops a few inches from your face. Your knees were already in the seat back, and now your tray won't lower flat. Your carry-on didn't fit. They gate-checked it and took $30 for the privilege. In front of the whole line, at the one moment you couldn't say no, you boarded in Group 8 after the plane was already full, and walked the entire length of it to the back, past every wider seat, and that walk is doing a job. Watching you trudge to the rear is part of how they sell the bigger seats to the people sitting in them. A glass of water is $2.50 if you want it. The bathroom is the row behind you, so there's a hip at your shoulder the whole flight. To the people who price this plane, you are load, weight that paid to be moved, and the entire craft of the relationship is working out how many more small fees can be hung on the weight before it stops buying tickets. Up near the front, a man boards early with a gold card and a bag that flew free, and settles in while you're still shuffling down the aisle, and you notice him exactly the way you were meant to. His name is Greg. He paid a little more than you to be treated a little better, and he is certain this is the beginning of something. You come back having spent a couple of $1,000s across a year, most of it without thinking about it, and you finally sign up for the card because the man boarding early made it look like dignity, an annual fee, and 25,000 miles later you have a color, silver, or whatever they call the bottom rung, and the color starts handing you back the small things they took. Your bag flies free, you hand it across the counter and walk away light, and the nagging little math of whether it's worth the fee is simply gone. You board in Group 1 now, and for the first time, there's room over your seat for your bag, and you slide it in without the silent war over the overhead bin. And every so often, when the cabin up front has empty seats going to waste, a screen at the gate decides you're worth moving and bumps you to the 4 extra inches of legroom they otherwise sell as a product. And you cross your legs on an airplane for the first time in your life and feel something absurdly close to happiness over 4 inches of plastic. It feels like being chosen. It's closer to housekeeping. An empty better seat earns the airline nothing, so they give it to their most loyal cheap customer and let loyalty appear to pay. You're in the same cabin you sat in last year, breathing the same air, served the same nothing. You're just near the door and a little bit pleased, and that turns out not to be nothing. Greg is 2 colors above you already, and he finds you in the gate area to explain, with real warmth, that the whole thing is a game, and the game is winnable. That if you fly the right routes and hold the right cards, you can have all of this for almost nothing. He thinks he and the airline are on the same side. He has never once been right about that. But it's early, and right now he's having a wonderful time. And so, a little are you? You're spending around $12,000 a year now, and the airline does something for you it has never done before. It treats a problem of yours as a problem of its own. Your connection goes tight, and before the panic can even arrive, a real human being has already rebooked you and tells you by name that it's handled. And there's the lounge. You push through a frosted glass door, and the entire airport just stops existing. The coffee is free and actually good. The chairs are deep and quiet. There's a window with real daylight and a shower you're welcome to use. And you sit down in the calm of it and feel your shoulders come down 2 inches from where they've lived your whole flying life. The seat's better too. Premium economy, wider, a footrest that swings up, a meal that arrives on a real tray, a little zipped kit with socks in it. This is the level where you start to feel loyalty, genuine loyalty. The warm certainty that you and this airline have an understanding, and you're smiling easily in an airport, which used to be the single most miserable place you knew. Hold that warmth up to the light though, because it only ever runs one direction. You're being recognized precisely as much as your spending tells them to, and not 1 degree past it. Greg has clocked the gap opening between you and quietly panicked. He started flying routes he has no reason to fly, in the cheapest seats that still earn status, looping through cities he doesn't need to be in, and sleeping in airport hotels, burning real money and real weekends to manufacture the look of being worth more than he is. He calls it a mileage run. He shows you the spreadsheet. He is proud of it. You're spending $80,000 a year with this airline, almost all of it at the front of the plane, and the whole experience changes texture. You turn left when you board now. The seat is a small room with a door that slides shut, and while you're at dinner, someone makes it up into a flat bed with an actual duvet. There are pajamas folded on it. They bring warm nuts in a little ramekin and a glass of champagne before the cabin door has even closed. And by your second flight, they've learned exactly how you take your coffee and have it in your hand before you'd have thought to ask. A car meets you at the curb at the hub and drives you to the aircraft itself. And when a connection is in danger, they don't rebook you. They hold the other plane briefly, and a person you will never see decides to inconvenience 200 strangers so that you, specifically, make your meeting. You walk to it at a stroll, while a gate full of people who ran still missed it. You sleep flat at 39,000 feet under a duvet and wake on another continent genuinely rested, and you are, by any honest measure, happy. You've crossed the line that actually counts to them. You're no longer weight that paid to be moved. You're profit they'd rather not lose, and profit gets protected. Greg is up here too, more or less. He clawed onto the same colored card you carry, on a fraction of your spending, by running his whole life as a sequence of qualifying transactions. And from the outside, the two of you look identical. Same lounge, same boarding group, same flat bed. He's sure that proves he won. What he can't see, because the airline is very careful never to show it, is the second number behind the color. Not the status you both hold, but the dollars you spend, and he doesn't. The airline sees that number perfectly. It is, in the end, the only thing it has ever been looking at. You're spending something like $500,000 a year with them, and you get pulled into a tier that has no application form, no published chart, and no way in you can buy on purpose. It doesn't even have an honest name out loud. They call these things global services, or the concierge list, or the inner circle. And the one feature they all share is that you cannot fly your way in. You can only be selected quietly on the strength of money they can't get from anyone else. At the top of it is a building like the one this whole story opened in, a private terminal where you check in at a desk that belongs to you alone, sink into a room with a bathtub and a cigar lounge and a chef who'll cook you whatever you want, and then ride out to your plane across the tarmac in that car, having never stood in one line, never shown a boarding pass to a crowd, never touched the airport at all. The seat is a suite with a door and a bed and, on some of them, a shower in the sky. There's an agent whose entire job is your day when weather folds an airport and 10,000 people are sleeping under the departure boards. The phone you happen to own rings first, and you're already rebooked before most of them have woken up. You are about as happy and as looked after as this system was ever built to make a person, and you're grinning at the sheer absurd comfort of it. And you've earned every inch. This is just what your money honestly buys. Greg is not here. Greg was never going to be here. He spent a decade mastering the visible game, the miles, the cards, the runs. And the door at the top of this airline doesn't open for any of it. It opens only for the number he spent 10 years trying to fake. He's still down a few floors, several colors up, certain he's a couple of good quarters away. And then you stop giving airlines money at all because you buy the airplane, maybe a slice of one, a card with a bank of hours on it, maybe the whole thing, $50 million of jet with your own crew and your own hangar. The day you do, your relationship with every commercial airline on Earth quietly turns inside out. You don't wait for them anymore. Now, if it came to it, they would wait for you. You leave from a small building on the far side of the field. You arrive 20 minutes before the plane moves. You walk up the steps with a coffee still in your hand, and the only person there who knows your name is someone you employ. There's no line because there's no longer anyone standing in front of you. You've gone clean around the entire machine they spent 6 levels using to sort you, and the freedom of that is a kind of happiness that's genuinely hard to describe to anyone still inside the building. The same company that once took $30 to let you carry on a bag would chase you for a charter contract now, and you don't need them, and they can feel that you don't, and that turns out to be the only version of you they ever actually respected, the customer who can walk away. You're at the top of the climb, and you're happier than the cold open ever let on. And then Greg calls, not to brag this time. The airline rewrote its program over a single quiet weekend, the way they do every few years. The spend it now takes to hold his tier went up. The miles he'd hoarded got worth less overnight, and the job that used to fly him 100,000 miles a year came to an end. He hadn't done a single thing wrong. The loyalty was only ever a meter, and the day he stopped feeding it, the warmth switched off like a light. The agent who knew his name doesn't anymore. The upgrades quietly stopped clearing, and last week he boarded in Group 8 and walked the long way to the back, past everyone who paid more. The exact walk you took at the very start, the one you've spent your whole life climbing away from. He's calling to ask, carefully, whether you might put him on your reservation sometime, just to get a decent seat. He fell the same week you stopped needing anyone to lift you at all. You won't take the commercial flight, but you think about it anyway. Somewhere right now, in an airport you'll never walk through again, a person who spent $50 is folded into a middle seat with a stranger's elbow in their ribs, watching a gold card stroll on ahead of them, quietly promising themselves that one day they'll be on the other side of that rope. What an airline sells at every level, from the back of the cheap cabin to the bathtub in the private terminal, is the feeling of being treated like you matter. And it prices that feeling against exactly what you're worth to it. So the more you have, the more it costs, and the better it genuinely feels. And it does feel better. That part isn't a trick. The comfort up here is real, and the happiness is real, and you're allowed to enjoy every bit of it. The only people who get hurt are the ones who can't yet afford to notice the price, and the ones, like Greg, who tried to fake their way into being worth it. So you finish the drink nobody billed you for, and you fasten your own belt, because that part, still, they make everyone do alone. And you sit back, happy and able, at last, to afford to be.